Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Ace Farmer Keva here, and today I'll be covering my Endless Guides video today. This will be a part 1 of a part 2 series, or I'll be filling in more information in a pinned comments on this YouTube video. But once again, welcome everyone. Hope everyone is having a great day / night. Tomorrow and or today, depending on where you're at in the world, is going to be the XP event that's going live in Orna. I decided that I wanted to take and give some information on different guides for Endless, going from beginner to expert, or as I'm going to be putting in the Google Sheets, that I'm making a level 1 all the way up to a level 3. And let me take and share my screen so you'll see what I'm working on right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'll read it off to you real quick. So hello everyone, Ace Farmer Keva here. This is my take on Endless for all the classes in Orna. Level 1 is a beginner friendly version for each class, focusing on what gear you can use or what gear you may have. So I'm going to take and maybe do a little bit of correction with that. Level 2 focusing on event gear, specific dormants, and tower classes. And level 3, or the best in slots, according to my thoughts and opinions on running lots of Endless. Gear from level 2 and level 3 can be interchangeable and completely up to everyone's preferences. So here's the outline. Realmshifter is going to be base Realmshifter for level 1 and level 2. And level 3 will be Realmshifter Corvus. For Beowulf, I'll have base Beowulf, then Beowulf Regia, then Beowulf Hydrus, and Beowulf Regia and Hydrus can be interchangeable between level 2 and 3 depending on your preference and your gear. Then I'll have Heretic for the next one, level 1 and 2, or base Heretic. And then level 3 is Heretic Corvus. Then I have Deity Endless for the next one, and that one will be base Deity for level 1, and then Deity Aura for level 2 and level 3 depending on your gear. Then the next one will be Gilgamesh Endless, and we'll have base Gilgamesh for level 1 and 2, and then Gilgamesh Hercules for level 3. Now I do want to put in that the builds that I'll be giving are for Orns and not Orn Endless, because some people may not have the achievement for floor 400s. So different classes can be used to help get that floor 400 achievement, and some will be a little bit harder to use. Now, for the summer one, I'm going to be putting a video link for that one and the description of the video, because Mr. John Elbert from the Orna GPS RPG Disto server has done an excellent job working on that, and has a whole bunch of cool graphics and stuff along the lines, and it would take me a pretty long time in order to take and cover what he's already done the work. So thank you, John, for that. But moving on, let me close this, and I'll go over the first one, which is Realmshifter base. And I'm going to go here. I already have a build made already for it, so you can see here, beginner Endless build for this one. I like using the Mimic Head if you're going for Orange and XP, but if you do not have a Mimic Head, you can use a common Old Northern Crown that you get from completing the quest, and then you can use a Yeti overcoat. And then some honorable mentions for this will be the Arisen armor that you get from defeating the Arisen Mammon. All of them can be put in these slots right here. And then I'll be using a questing bow here. Let me go grab that out of my storage real quick so you can see that. Come here, storage. So we're going to go weapons. So I'm going to go grab that one out real quick, and I'll put it on here so people can see that. Now the goal for the base Realmshifter Endless will be simply to take and get your health low and maintain low health. There are some really cool new event gear that can help people out, mainly being the Dynasty gear. As you can see here, it gives you the ability Curse of Sekhmet. Curse of Sekhmet is similar to Bloodshift, where it prevents you from healing, but it does not give you the stats that Bloodshift has, which is 10% through all stats and 5% crits. But it is permanent, unlike Bloodshift, which is temporary. So it's a great thing to use. You can take and put that on your Endless Buffing Loadout page, and I'll show you what I do for all my classes for Endless preparation. So for that one, I go over to the Beowulf Gear with Raider, or you can just do base Beowulf Raider as well. I use Raider so I can get the Berserk 3 from that, but you can use other classes if Beowulf is your main class that you'll be doing it on. For example, you can use Bahamut and do Raider on that one, or a different Beowulf class if you have it, or a lower one, or any other class. Now I have a special loadout right here. As you can see, I use some immunity accessories, a very high ward chest, and I use some ward legs that help maintain my ward turns. I use the Book of the Dragon for a good reason, to get dragon alignments. I think dragon alignment is one of the best alignments to use for Endless, because dragon alignment makes you immune to dragon attacks and increases your dragon damage that you deal. And most of the weapons that we'll be using for Orange and XP Endless will have the dragon elements, mainly being the questing weapon and then the more advanced one, which will be the trolling weapon. Both have dragon elements already on their weapon. I use the Chrysalis in order to prevent my stats from being lowered. Any form of Chrysalis will work if you have the tier 7 or the tier 10 one. And as you see, the Kala Dynasty is on there. So if I go to my spells, it'll immediately show the Curse of Sekhmet. So once you have the buff, you can take off the helmets after you activate the Curse of Sekhmet, and you can put on your Old Northern Crown or anything else you have for more tanky stats. I use Call of Brynhild 2, which can be received from the tier 9 Beowulf class. The Bahamut Regia is the one that will allow you to get that. It doesn't really cost that many shards, so I recommend people, if you've already gotten your first class already and you're looking to try and improve your Endless prowess, using the Call of Brynhild is very helpful, because it gives you the increased chance for your follower to perform a buff or debuffing spell. And I use it mainly with Valhallan because it has a higher chance of proccing or activating, unlike using it on a different class. Going back to the buffing spells that I use, I have Wyvern Speed 2 for attack 1, magic 1, and speed. And then I have Divine Bastion, Fortify, Gate of Gunner if I'm going for an attack build, but I will not use Gate of Sinatra if I'm going for a magic build. The big difference between Gate of Gunner and Gate of Sinatra is Gate of Gunner increases your attack at the cost of your resistance and your magic, while Gate of Sinatra increases your magic at the cost of your attack and your defense. I have Wormsong as well for the crit buff. Wormsong gives you crit 1, which is a plus 20% increase to your crit rates, and then Blight Shrek in case I have to take out any pesky bosses or monsters that can potentially doom me, or if I'm already doomed, to take them out to prevent me from dying. Mimic's Mischief for the attack 2 and magic 2 up, and Ward of Ordnite Golden's Fortitude for that. Now the pet that I use for my buffing phase could be the Steward Golem, aka the best golem in my book, but for the most part I use the Super Boof pets, aka the Great Yeti. It's a common follower, so you can get it out of most bestiaries. And the Great Yeti gives you all six of the elemental defenses. It gives you earth, fire, ice, lightning, Dark, and Holy, and it also gives you Defense 1 and Resistance 1 as well. So that is the one that I use. A going loadout or rotation that I'd recommend for people that are buffing is to use, let me go back to here, is going to be Ward of Ward Knights, Golem's Fortitude, Call of Brynhild, then Divine Bastion. And by that time, the Yeti will have already gave you a lot of defense and resistance buffs to help you out. And then you can proceed with Mimic's Mischief, Wormsong, Wyvern Speed 2, and then Curse's Sekhmet, and then Berserk last, after all your other buffs are there. Because once Curse's Sekhmet is activated, you won't be able to heal, so you want to be very careful with that. Now for Realmshifter, I use Berserk 2 as well, but I mainly use the Berserk Mushroom that you can get from battling the Mimics and battling in the arena or in the Blades of Finesse arena in order to help you out. Going over for some spells that I use for Realmshifter is I use Sortie, my Elemental Strike, Earth Strike, Sleep Dart, Stun Dart, Exploit, Sharpen, Gate of Gunner if I didn't already have it activated, Divine Bastion, Ward of Ward Knights, and Sands of Aru for funsies, just to increase the chance of blinding them if I want to just stall a turn. Now you can also add Defiant Channel in place of Gate of Gunner if you're looking for an increase in your power if you do not have the Ashen Phoenix. But if you do, then you can take and replace this with any other spell of your choice for the beginner one. Moving on to the more advanced one, I'd use the strike spells from the Deity Ursa, because the Elemental Strike 3 spells from Deity Ursa have a chance to crit, and it has a crit chance of 5%, so you need a total of either 75 or 80% crits before you use Wormsong in order to give you 95 to 100% crits, because of the main reason that your auto attack as an attack class has the highest penetration besides using Blades of Finesse specialization going for the Ren Epi. So that's why I personally recommend for either tier 2 or tier 3 for advance is to have 80%, but starting out you will probably want to have roughly 75% or as much as you can possibly get, and you can use the Gilgamesh spell Guarding Strikes to lower your health while gaining ward turns to help make sure you never lose ward turns. And then whenever your health is lower, if you do not have the Curse of Sekhmet, then you can take and use Sortie to take and deal a big critical hit. But as you can see here with the more advanced gear that I have for level 2, I use the Mightiest Mimic helmets, the Arisen Rift chest guard, and the Arisen Rift boots. The reason why I like the Arisen Rift chest guard and boots is because they have 5% base built-in crits, and you can see here they also have plus 5% accuracy for both of them, which comes in handy because the longer you go into Endless, the more attack, defense, resistance, dexterity the monsters and bosses that you face will have, so it will be harder in order to hit them. Moving forward, I'll be going towards the spells that I use for the advanced Realmshifter. It's going to be Horizontal /3 from the Gilgamesh Ursa. This is optional, but I mainly use a lot of the different Elemental Strike 3 spells from Deity Ursa, which is very important, as well as Ultima Strikes, which is a big key selling point from Deity Ursa. I use Lightning, Earth, Dragon, Dark, Arcane, and Ultima as my main forms of attack. I still like to keep Ward of Ward Knight, Sharpened, Stun Dart, and Sleep Dart, and Exploits to help out. If I'm facing a Berserk, I can stun them, reduce their defense with Exploit, raise my attack up by temporary by 1 with Sharpen, and then go for the killing blow with either the strike spells or the Ultima Strike. As you can see, also, I forgot to mention that I use the Trialing Bow, which you can get by defeating Gorewrench, which is a Worm Hunt Dragon that will be coming out next month. So unfortunately, you won't have it for this month unless you happen to have one in your local area. And for people that don't know what it looks like, let me go here to the Codex, and I will show you real quick like it is a boss. It is tier 10. And let's find out where he's hiding at. So this one, Gorewrench, Son of Mountains. As you can see, Gorewrench only drops the weapons, the Trialing Axe, Bow, and Staff for each respective Warrior, Magic, and Thief class line. What's cool about the Trialing Staff is that it also has a bonus to Quest and Amitys by 10% as well, besides giving you orange XP and gold boosters. So that's going to cover the tier 2 for Realmshifter. Now moving on to the tier 3, which is going to be Realmshifter Corvus. Now, I'm not using Seeker for Endless, just giving you a little heads up. I'm mainly going to be using Oracle because I'm using the 25% accessory boosting Amity. But if you do not have them, you can also use a crit damage Amity, an elemental damage Amity of your faction choice, or you can use an auto attack Amity as well. So there's many other options, but those would be the ones that I would recommend. Moving forward for Realmshifter Corvus for tier 3, the gear loadout is the same as the tier 2, but the spells are a little bit different. As you can see, I added one special spell here, and that's Perfect Shots. Perfect Shots does not miss, and it has a 5% crit rate, I believe, on it as well. It is the similar spells and loadout as the advanced one. It's just that I'm using the Realmshifter Corvus, as you can see here, for the abilities for it, is that it has Resurgence, which is great, but something new that it has is going to be the crit chain. So you lose 10% crit damage, but every time that you crit in a row, you gain 10% increase to your crit damage. And then it has high tenacity, so you will not die to the berserks. And it has Mystic Feather and Avidity too. So the reason why I like Corvus is because of the crit chain, and because it doesn't heal when you crit. It doesn't have the recharge like the base Realmshifter has. The only downside is that you'll have to take and manage your mana, so you can replace some of the gear or the adornments in there for the Mountainous Acorns, or you can take and use a mana potion on a safe floor. So that's going to cover all of the Realmshifter parts. Now I'm going to move over to the Beowulf part for the Endless. So we're going to go one over here. So you'll be going base Beowulf with the Tamer specialization, depending if you're going for orange or not. And let's see. So I'm going to be going here under this one right here for the pet rating. For Beowulf, you mainly want to use the Aegir's gear if you have the chance to, which is available during the Ragnarok event that is going on right now, because it will give you pet stats and increased chance for your followers' bestial bond. I'm using a lute as well. This is part of more of the advanced part, but for the beginning part, you can take and use a regular lute, which you can get from defeating the Scrug raid right here. You can see that gives 10% follower stats. And then if you do not have the Purely's Lesser Favorite Staff, which gives you ward, attack, magic, and ward stats, you can also use the Arisen Shield as well as an alternative. And then similar to before, you can use your Yeti coat or other coats for the beginner one. But as you can see here, it gives you 6% bestial bond and then 8% follower stats for the Aegir. It is more the well-balanced pieces of gear to use for Beowulf Endless because it gives you good attack, good defense, good resistance, and good amount of ward. Unlike the Fey Chimera armor, which mainly gives you more follower stat bonus, but does not have any ward and has lower defense and lower resistance, sorry, and higher defense on it. Now, something you can use would be the Fallen Sky legs when you are in the early stages as base Beowulf Endless, because your goal is to not really lose turns. So that's why I recommend using the Fallen Sky legs if you have them. It doesn't matter if you have a good quality of them, you can just use a common one if you have it, just to help you not lose ward turns. You'll be using the similar loadout that I used before for Beowulf Lv3 Endless for this one, which with the attack spells with the Gunner, because the main pet you'll be using for Endless once you have everything buffed up from all the buffs is going to be the Fey Chimera or the Chimera pet. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to show you right now. So the Fey Chimera with the Bestial Bond gives you accuracy and bonded attack and bonded dexterity. Accuracy for level 1, and then bonded attack and bonded dexterity for level 2 and 3. And what's cool is that it does a combination between no element attacks with the Omni strikes, and then it has the dragon attacks between the beast strikes and the wyvern strikes to attack all different things. Now, the challenging part with base Beowulf is that you'll be having to manage your health to be really low and to not take a turn when your health is really low, because you will die if you do not kill the monster, or you'll just die in general with that. So that's why the ongoing joke or meme for Beowulf Endless is to make sure that you have lots of small mana potions stocked up, because your turn will act by using the small mana potion. Now you can also use the other Chimera, so let me go over to both of them, show you the difference between that one. So Fey Chimera is the one I just showed you, which is this one, as the Christmas sprites, so thank you Lemon Tiger for getting me that. But the base Chimera has a little bit of a different loadout, as you can see, for the spell. It has Blight Strike, Omni Strike, and Wyvern Strikes, so a little bit different spells, but it has overall the same Bestial Bond bonus. Some people may not have the Fey Chimera because the Fey Chimera is one that is from the Sisters of Morgan's events, so you can use both of them. Now the only downside is that if you do happen to face a Mighty Mimic, and unless you may want to swap over to a different pet that can do no elements or dragon attacks, because sometimes the Chimera will act up and not really do that. So let me show you the Mightiest Mimic, which is a tier 9 one. I go with Mimic. As you can see, the Mighty Mimic is only can be damaged by dragon attacks or no elemental attacks like Transference or Blast, for example. So that's where this could be really dangerous for Beowulf, because it can also confuse you, which is not really good, because if you have lots of spells and you're low health and you get confused and you use the wrong spell, that could possibly end your run right there. Now, one thing you can do to work around it is to have a separate loadout and to have only healing spells on there, like Diffuse Ward or other things that will give you more health than you're losing for the Berserks, is a good way to counteract the confusion. Moving on to the level 2 for Beowulf, which I'm going to be going with Beowulf Lv3 Gear to show you the difference between base one. So I'm going to show you the stats real quick for this one. So view abilities. So the passive abilities for Beowulf is going to be the Valhalla powers, follower stats, low HP, and the follower activates from the Valhalla and Dissonance. Then you have the protect chance, the follower action rates, the access to bestial bond 1, 2, and 3, the ascension synergy, which is very important, mana siphon, which can help in chances whenever you need to take in running low on mana and you want to cast a spell, and then the hybrid monster 2. Now the difference between this one and Beowulf Lv3 Gear is that it has a higher stats for the Valhalla and Dissonance, so you're getting an extra 20 to 30% more, and because you are the Regia, you have a chance for your pet to actually act 2 times and has more action rates. And then you can see here that you have a plus 12% to your bestial bonds with the enhanced bestial bonds for Beowulf Lv3 Gear, and you have the similar with the ascension synergy and the mana siphon, but you do not have the hybrid monster 3. So with Beowulf Lv3 Gear, a little more of an advanced one, I'm going to show you the gear that I use here for this one. So we're going to go with Orn's XP Beowulf early game, and I'll show you both early and late game. So this one's more of an introduction. You can, if you do happen to have the purely staff, you can use that, but once again you can take and use any shield of your choice. I like to use the Fallen Skyleg, so I maintain my ward turn. That is a tip that I want to take and don't overstep, is that whenever you're preparing for Beowulf Endless, you want to make sure you stack up a ton of turns, and by a ton I mean ranging between 3 to 500 ward turns, depending on how long or how deep you're planning on going Endless, or how much you expect to go into Endless. Now here I'm using some really weird looking adornments. Some people may not see them in the questing acts for the beginning, and I'll show you what they are under the website right now. So I'm going to pull it up real quick. They're called the Goat's Eyes. So bam, the Goat's Eyes, when adorned into a weapon, gives you 2% summon and 2% follower stats, which is fantastic. Another good adornment you can use if you're mainly going for orange and using the questing weapon would be the Symbol of Doom as the next best one. So I'll show that one real quick. Symbol of Doom, giving you the follower stats and the follower act rate as well. That drop from the Final Horseman. The quality only determines if you lose more HP and mana, so preferably if you can, get a broken or poor Symbol of Doom as a good alternative compared to the Goat's Eyes if you do not have access to the place where the Goat's Eyes drops from, which is the Aloof Ares, which is a Crimson Festival scroll summon. So if people have Ares scrolls from the Crimson Festival, they can take and use that to help summon that. But moving back over to the next one, which will be level 3, or the more advanced parts of the Endless one, is this one. So I'll be using the Celestial Loot with the Selene legs in there. Let me take and double check on the website, and I'll take and show that to you real quick about what the Selene legs do. Alright, so here we go. As you can see here, it gives you attack, magic, and 10% follower stats. So you can put 5 of those in your loot. Loot has a base 7% follower stats, so it will be a grand total of 57% to your follower stats, which can come in really handy for that. But I'd also be using the Feyguard chest and the Feyguard's legs once I get deeper into the Endless, and you can choose to take off the helmet and use the Feyguard's helmet, or use an Orn Gear, like the Orn Gear, my apologies, like the Lost Helmet as a good alternative. moving on to the last Beowulf one, it's going to be Beowulf Hydrus. Now, Beowulf Hydrus can be played a few different ways. I'm going to show you one of them. So this one is going to be the verse 4 Endless. With this one, you want to put the Selene hands in your weapon. So let me go here and I'll show it to you. The steady hands of Selene gives you attack magic at a good quality, and then gives you hybrid damage plus 15% and minus 10% follower stats. Now, let me take and go over a little bit about the passive abilities of Beowulf Hydrus to show you why you don't really mind the minus follower stats. You have the Valhallan Strength, which is different. You get 7% crits, 75% follower stats, 7% follower act rates, and 5% chance to cause blight. And then you have the Hybrid Monster 3. So if we go back over to base Beowulf, that's Hybrid Monster 2, you can see that this one does 25% to hybrid for your attack and magic that are combined together, while with Beowulf Hydrus you're going to take and get 40%, so that's an additional 15% right here. The big difference between base Beowulf, Beowulf Hydrus, and Beowulf Regia is that Beowulf Hydrus only gets access to Bestial Bonds 1 and 2, so you will not get 3. Now, what's cool though is that the Hydrus passive has a chance to where if you were to get hit with a deadly blow, your follower will check out or go away, and you'll be at 1 health, so it's a second chance. But if you get hit again after your follower's already gone, or you get hit multiple times that turn, if you're in a horde boss or a group dungeon, then you would perish. So this can come in handy for Endless, where if you get hit by a boss really hard and you survive, and then you hit back and you take them out, it'll help you out because you have the last passive, which is the recharge. So when you crit, you'll gain HP and mana, so it allows you to use lots of different builds for that. Now, the reason why I called it verse 4 Endless is because verse, as you can see here, it is a spell. So what technically benefits from the Aegir strats, a branch of Aegir gives you an increase to your defense and resistance at the cost of your attack by 90% and your magic by 30%. And it also helps from the hybrid as well, because as you can see here, verse 4 is a mix between attack and magic, and it has a chance to take and lower the defense and resistance. Now, similar to the strike spells, verse 4 has 5% crits, so you need to have 75% crits in your gear before you were to take and guarantee your crits. So this, I've kind of readorned this a little bit differently, but I'd use a rift blade for this, for example, to help me out with some more crits similar to this, and then I'd mainly run a staff in my offhand. Or I would run this loot right here with some more attack and magic with it, with some crit gems in there in order to get these total 75% crit that you would need. And then the spells you can see here, reverse, you'd have Ultima as well. Now, that brings me back to my next version of Beowulf Hydrus, which is a little bit more advanced because you have to be level 245 in order to use Ultima, which would be the sequencer one for Endless, where you'd be using a staff that gives you quick cast. I might have to grab it out of my storage. Let me find it if I have it. I do not. So I'll be using a one-handed Celestial Tower staff and another staff in my hand in order to use Sequencer. Sequencer with the staff combined will help you out a lot. So we're going to go to weapons, and we're going to go with -1 cast Funsies. As you can see here, I have the Lungs of Oceanus in here. The Lungs of Oceanus have a chance to make spells that cost 2 turns or more, cost 1 less. So when you combine the 5 Lungs of Oceanus with the Sequencer, you will gain immediately a 1-turn cast Ultima. Now with Ultima has a 25% crit rate, so you need to have less crits overall. And then I would use a different weapon as well. So let's say I'd use the Caladanda, because the Caladanda has a lot of slots in it that you can put crits. I'd mainly use the Souls of Achilles or the Ferocious Bullseyes if you do not have them. The Souls of Achilles are nice because it increases light and dark damage by 2% for each adornment, so 4% total for each one, 2% dark and 2% for holy, and it gives you a little bit of crit rate too, as you can see here. Or if you're going for the orange or XP, you can use the Arisen Terror, or you can use the Questing Staff as an alternative to gain some more orange and XP. So that's the advanced build for the Beowulf right there. Moving forward, we're going to go with the last one for today for the video, which will be the Deity. I was going to do the Heretic, but I decided to do the Deity for today. So I'll be going over base Deity as the first one, and I'll be crafting this build on the spot as we go with this. So for a beginner friendly Deity, I'd recommend using a loot of your choice. I'm going to be using the Arisen Caroling because it is beginner friendly, and I'll be using the Northern Crown as well, or any gear that you have that has a good stack between attack and ward. Similar, I'll be using the Yeti coats or any of the Arisen armor that you can get from the Mammon as a good alternative use. But I'll be using this for now, and then I'll be using the Ashen Greaves. Now, I'd also recommend using a shield in order to help you out as well, so I'll be using this one. And then you can put in your accessories of choice depending on what you want to use. If you're going for orange, you can put on your Band of Gods, or you can put on Monster Tombs if you're going for XP. Now, one thing that I didn't get a chance to cover for the Amitys for Heretic, not Heretic, the Beowulf is going to be the Amitys you'd use if you're going for deeper Endless. You can use a max HP Amity, or you can use a follower stats Amity to help give you a little bit more damage with that. For Beowulf Hydrus, you would want to take and use a hybrid Amity in order to get yourself some more bonus from your hybrid capabilities, roughly about 20% depending on how close your attack and magic are, which if you are Beowulf or Deity, they'll be really close, so I'd recommend the similar Amity for Deity as well. Now there's two different ways you can play base Deity, so I recommend going either an attack or a magic one. If you do happen to have Heretic, it can help you out a lot, so I'm going to go over why having the Heretic class would be helping you out for Deity. So we go over the Omnimancer, and we go to Spells, and we're actually not going to go to the Heretic, we're going to go over to the Omnimancer. Now, the Omnimancer spells, the Heat, Lightning, Quake, Storm, Ice Storm spells like this, they have really high magic penetration in the game, so I'd recommend having one of each of these, or maybe 3 or 4, then depending on your preference. I think that Ice Storm is a good one. Having the Heat Lightning is another one. Basically having 2 or 3 of them that cover all the elements together. Because if you attack a monster slash boss and it's weak to Earth and use Ice Earth, then it's going to count as the Earth elements against it rather than the Ice. And here's the cool thing, even if it's resisted, it will still do a good amount of damage, even though it will be resisted to it. So that's one way to get around, for example, the Mightiest Mimic. You can use the Omnimancer spells at that. Now you can also go the attack routes and go with Guarding Strike 3 as your main source for base Deity Endless, because Guarding Strikes, all versions of Guarding Strikes 1, 2, 3, or 4, if you have the Gilgamesh Hercules, all do a good amount of damage and they have good penetration on it for the armor side. Now, I recommended earlier using the Aegir stance, so I'm going to go over that a little bit. Let's see, so that's not the right one, so let me take and go over to my storage and go find it, and I'll show you why it's so good to use for the magic side. So as you can see here, the Aegir stance greatly increases your defense at the expense of your offensive power. It is, when you put it in your equipment, so I'll show you a little example right now. So I'm going to take it out and I will equip it right here just to show you. Against a monster. When you go to battle, you would click the Aegir stance and it would turn it on. I died because I have 50 Anguish on, but you would click it if you wanted to turn it off as well. So it gives you a lot of defense resistance at the cost of 90% of your attack and 30% of your magic. Now there is an alternative or a different one that you can use as well, which is going to be the Gymir stance for the attack ones. So I'm going to show you that, and it's going to be the tree cutter. You take the stance of Gymir, increasing your attack but taking damage every turn. So it's almost, or not almost, but it is a Berserk Dots, but it does not work with high tenacity. If you hit 0 while Gymir is activated, even as a Realmshifter with high tenacity, you will die. So that's why DD can make this work, because you can also use a combination between Osmo Strike 3, which has a fair amount of penetration as well, with that in order to take and heal up and deal damage. So those are the 2 different versions for level 1 DD I'd recommend. Now, moving towards the advanced one, it would be DDR, which is the magic version of it. The magic one I'd recommend first would be the Seal Endless. And with this one, I'd recommend using, if your goal is to go for maximum orange XP and gold, is to use 2 questing staffs with a hybrid or a recharge Amitys if you are in the beginning stages of DDR. If you're advanced and you have the stats, you can take and use the supplements Amitys, which gives you the bonus to your accessories for more orange XP and gold. And similar to Verse Endless and the Strike Endless, the Seals, which are the magic version for DDR, have 5% crits. So you need to have 75% crits built into your gear in weapons combined before you wanted to take and use it. Or technically you can use it without, but I like the crit, so I put in a lot of crits. My preference is using the Lichenous Bristles, which were available last month, over the Ashen Pinions, even though Ashen Pinions do give double the crit, they take away a lot more stats. That's why you see here that I have a good combination between crits and Ashen Pinions. Now you can also do Deity Aura Sequencer Endless, similar to the Beowulf Hydra Sequencer, and it would be under the Ultimate Endless here. As you can see, I have some more adornments customized for this one, and you would put on either a questing staff or an Arisen Terror or a Caladander or any staff of your choice as options. But overall, that will be my first part of the endless parts for today. I really do appreciate everyone who listened all the way down to the end of this video. I do want to apologize ahead of time for some of the bloopers and stuff. I wanted to really get this video out even though I'm not feeling the best, but I will be upgrading this guide that I'm going to put down in the description. But thank you once again everyone for watching the video. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Go check me out on YouTube for other videos, and you can check out Twitch. All those links will be in the description, as well as my link to the Discord if you want to take and find out whenever I go live to get notified through Discord or see if I'm posting any other special events. So have a great rest of y'all's day/night, and I will catch y'all next time. Peace.